FanFic Critic. I read it. You listen. Well, I have one nice thing to say. No more Comics Nick's challenges. Oh boy, I'm so glad I don't have to read any more of his awful fanfics. And if any of you guys even think about requesting Comics Nick's, I will hunt you down and kill you! Now that I've made myself clear, let's get on with today's review. Today we're taking a look at a Dragon Ball Z fanfic called Big Mistake by Marek. It's rated K, it's in English, it's humor, it has 16 reviews, and it's called Big Mistake, in case I didn't say it. Okay, so Big Mistake, but, oh geez, they relist their name down here, but they have like a bunch of names. It's Marek Cruz, Marek, Animaiac, and Animaiac. Talk about indecisive when it comes to your name. I'm FanFic Critic, no fanfiction critic, no, the critic of fanfic, the critic of all fanfiction. I love to review fanfic. Yeah, it gets kind of annoying after a while. Stick with one name. Okay, disclaimer. All the DBZ GT characters are the copyright properties of Akira Toriyama. Author's note. I'm using Bra's original name, Bora, because it sounds more appropriate and I can never picture Vegeta calling Bra out. Good for you, sir. I'm glad you changed it because I personally thought Bra sounded inappropriate anyway. Trunks is 18 years old. Do not abbreviate years, please. Marin is 13 and Bora is 6. 18 may not eat, but I believe she might drink any edible fluids. It's a nice spring Saturday at the city of West Capital, and the residents are busy with their routines of daily work. And most of the stores, movies, and local hangouts are filled with young people who are not at school. So I guess it's summertime. We now come across a small diner where a small unknown family stop by. Ah, this looks like a good place to eat, said Krillin. Yeah, I'm starving, Daddy, replied Marin happily. Luckily, I don't need to eat, but we'll take a juice if they have any, added 18. But just as Krillin was about to open the door, another man was coming out of the diner and Krillin accidentally hit him. Oh geez, I'm sorry buddy, you okay? Krillin apologized with concern. Really, sir, you should learn to watch where you're going, said the arrogant man rubbing his sore nose. He has black afro-style hair, must be related to Mr. Satin. Hercule for those who are not familiar with the Japanese names. A pencil-thin mustache and beady eyes. He is also wearing a blue dress shirt with matching pants, yellow square rimmed glasses, and carrying a whip. Okay. Listen, pal, my husband said that he was sorry. 18 defended Krillin. That may be so, madam, but he was too ignorant to know what he was doing. The man debated. Careful, mister, my mother kills for less than that. Marin warned. Is that so, the man questioned. Is this the type of example you want to set for your child? If means getting rid of overly pompous morons like you, then yes. 18 answered. A typical answer coming from a dysfunctional family. This angers Krillin and his family. Now look here, bub. We are as functional and normal as any other family around here. Krillin pointed out to defend his family honor. His family's honor with an apostrophe S, you bubblehead. Of course you are, replied the man, ignoring Krillin's remark. Lots of people like to believe that their families are well... Why is the rest of the line broken up in a... This is one of these stories where they have to have a paragraph space for every single sentence, practically. Now, you can overdo paragraph spacings, and you can overdo not doing paragraph spacings. I mean, yes, this is easy to read, but when you have the next line of the dialogue a paragraph space away instead of, you know, just continuing in that same paragraph, it kind of makes it hard to read and hard to follow. You know what I mean? So don't do it! Now, if you excuse me, I have an appointment at Capsule Corporations and I don't like to be late. Excuse me, did you say Capsule Corporations? Krillin asked the stuck-up man. Of course I did, the man answered annoyingly. Is there anything else you want to ask? All I can say is I hope you got some life insurance, buddy. Krillin replied slyly, emphasizing the word buddy. The man simply walked off with a humph. Come on, Krillin. Why don't we teach that guy a lesson? 18 suggested. Hang on, 18. I don't think that will be necessary. Krillin confirmed. What do you mean, Daddy? Marin asked curiously. She didn't ask because there's no question mark. Easy. Once he gets to Capsule Corporation, he'll get what's coming to him. Krillin laughed. 18 and Marin got what he meant and joined in on the laugh. Is it evil laughter like this? Okay, let's continue. Looks like we got something to do after lunch, 18 assumed. Yeah, let's hurry and eat so we won't miss anything, Krillin concluded as they went in the diner. Meanwhile, in Capsule Corp, Bulma, the company's president, is having an interview with a certain guest. Well, I see you have great credentials, Mr. Shu, said Bulma, looking over the resume. That's very kind of you to say so, Miss Briefs Vegeta, replied the man that Krillin's family ran into the diner about several moments ago. Wait a minute. Briefs Vegeta? Vegeta is Vegeta's first name. Unless we're supposed to assume it's like in the Mario movie where his name is Vegeta Vegeta. Let's continue. But of course, I've been known to be the best tutor in the city. Gee, I thought Vegeta was full of himself. Bulma thought to herself, yes, I believe that you are Mr. Shu, she told Mr. Shu. We tried 6 other tutors, but my daughter was not very fond of any of them. I suspect that she might be a problem child. Mr. Shu thought to himself, well, if anyone can get through to your daughter, then I'm the man for the job, he declared. Very well, Mr. Shu, Bulma accepted. Now, if you just follow me, I'll introduce you to her, she instructed, and Bulma and Mr. Shu left the living room. A few minutes later, we now see 6-year-old Bora in her room wearing a pink short-sleeved blouse and red pants, white socks and red strap-on shoes. Okay, why the heck is white socks and red strap-on shoes in its own sentence? That shouldn't be in its own sentence. It should be part of the other sentence. With it as it is right now, it's a frickin' fragment. Fix it! She is reading one of her favorite books, Classic Princesses Stories. Shouldn't it say Classic Princess Stories? Because having it say Classic Princesses Stories just is a tongue twister in a sense. When she heard a knock on the door, Bora put down the book and went to open the door. She sees her mother with Mr. Shu behind her. Hello, Bora, Bulma greeted. Hello, Mama. Bora returned the greeting. Who's your new friend? She asked curiously. This is Mr. Shu, and he's going to be a new tutor. Bulma motioned to Mr. Shu. Hello, Mr. Shu. Bora approached Mr. Shu shyly, extending her hand. Either she has very good manners or it's all an act. Mr. Shu told himself and cleverly receives Bora's greeting. Hello, Bora. It is nice to meet you, Mr. Shu replied, and shaking Bora's hand. Well, I think you two might get along quite well, Bulma assumed. Of course we will, Mr. Shu proclaimed. Okay, I'll leave the two of you alone, Bulma concluded. Just call if you need anything, she suggested, and left Bora's room. Okay, bye, Mama, said Bora. Do not worry, Mrs. Briefs Vegeta. Your daughter is in good hands, Mr. Shu reassured as Bulma closed the door. Well, Miss Bora, now it's just the two of us. Why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself? Mr. Shu requested. Well, I'm 6 years old. My favorite colors are blue, pink, and purple. My favorite foods are spaghetti and desserts. I like animals and cartoons and fairy tales. Bulma delivered the answers proudly. My, you need calmness there, dumbass. You are an energetic little child, aren't you? Mr. Shu proclaimed. Do you have any brothers or sisters? Well, it says and sisters, but it should say or sisters. He asked some more. I have one big brother, Bora replied. His name is Trunks and he's training with my daddy. Is that so? Mr. Shu looking interested. That doesn't make any sense. And where, may ask, shouldn't it say may I ask, are your father and brother, he questioned. They are in the Galaxy Room training for the World Martial Arts Tournament next month. Bora supplied the information. Mr. Shu seemed suspicious. This child must be making this story up, he thought to himself. And where is this gravity room? Just a few floors down, but I wouldn't go in there if I were you. Daddy doesn't like it when somebody interrupts his training. It makes him cranky. Bora warned Mr. Shu. Obviously, this child does not want to tell the truth. Mr. Shu thought accusingly. Okay, if he's thinking accusingly, why is his thoughts in quotations and are not italicized? Because when you have something in quotations and not italicized, that implies that the person is speaking out loud. Jesus freaking hell. But then continues to get along with Bora. So tell me, what school subjects do you like? Mr. Shu asks, changing the subject. I like arts and crafts, reading, English, Japanese, and science, but recess is my favorite. Bora answered with enthusiasm. Recess is not a school subject. Mr. Shu corrected her. But it teaches you how to get along with other people. Bora informed Mr. Shu. Yes. Well, I guess that's enough of an introductions for now. Why don't we get started on your lesson? Mr. Shu suggested. Okay, Bora accepted and brought out her school books. What are you going to teach me first? Bora questioned. Well, I think we should start off with some math lessons. Mr. Shu recommended as he handed her a worksheet. Now don't get too upset if you don't get every problem right. Mr. Shu was trying to sound encouraging. Not all of us can be mathematical geniuses, but before Mr. Shu could keep going with his speech, Bora announced, all done. She said it, proudly. Mr. Shu could not believe this. He took Bora's worksheet and looked over the answers. Not only did she finish in record time, but also she got all the answers right. But how did she got them all right and so fast? That needs to be rewritten. It should say, but how did she get them right and so fast, might I add? That's what it should say. Mr. Shu asked himself, maybe it's not hard enough. He gives Bora another worksheet. This time the problems are harder than the first ones. Now take your time and look over your problems, Mr. Shu instructed. However, Bora finished them in record time. All done, she declared, and hands it back to Mr. Shu. Mr. Shu looks more perplexed than before when he is looking over Bora's worksheet. Impossible. No child can be this intelligent, he observed. Why don't we move on to English? Mr. Shu suggested. Okay, Bora agreed and gets ready for her next lesson. Mr. Shu gives Bora an English worksheet that seems to be more difficult than any regular worksheet for a 6-year-old. Now, I know that this worksheet might be more advanced than what you are used to, Mr. Shu confides, but I'm sure you'll know that you at least tried. Again, he was wrong. When Bora finished her worksheet, all done, she called out and gave him the worksheet. Mr. Shu has that perplexed look on his face again. How can this be? He asked himself. All right, let's move on to history. Mr. Shu gives Bora her history worksheet, and again, Bora finished it in no time. And again, Mr. Shu is shocked. I've got it. Mr. Shu gets an idea. I'll give her my science lesson. No pupil has ever managed to pass my science lesson. Okay, what the heck is up with this? All this should have been in one big quotation, not have it be, I'll give her my science lesson, end of quotation, then start another quotation saying, no pupil has ever managed to pass my science lesson. I mean, really? He gives Bora a science worksheet, which is probably the hardest lesson he ever gave her. Or so he thought. This has got to work, Mr. Shu told himself. My science lessons are the hardest to figure out. There's no way that even she could get through this. Yet, once again, Mr. Shu was wrong when Bora finished the science lesson he gave her. He looks over the science worksheet and his face went pale when he sees all the answers were right. How? How? How is this possible? Why is all the first letters in this sentence capitalized? You only see that when it's like a title of something. Okay then. He hyperventilates. This science lesson is on the 12th grade level. Not even a 12th grader could figure this one out. Then Mr. Shu starts to get a light blue glow surrounding him. Okay, is he going to turn into a Super Saiyan? Or I should say Super Douchebag? Are you okay, Mr. Shu? Bora asked with concern. How? Mr. Shu whispered sinisterly. How what? Bora repeated. How did you know all the answers of every lesson I gave you? He questions Bora with an ominous tone in his voice. Well, I'm just very smart, and sometimes my mommy and daddy help me, and even my big brother teaches me. Bora acknowledged. Oh, really? Mr. Shu countered. Well, do you know what I think? He inquired. Bora just shook her head. Well, I think you are a liar and a cheater. Okay, again, why is every single first letter of these words capitalized in the sentence? Doesn't make any sense. Mr. Shu lashed out. This hit Bora like a brick. I'm not a cheater and I don't lie. Bora defended herself. Then what happened to all those other 6 tutors that you driven off? Again, okay, they're doing it again. Is it supposed to be a deal that they're trying to write in all capitals and just forgot to capitalize the rest of the letters? I don't know. Mr. Shu debated. They were mean and they didn't believe me either. Bora stands her ground. And it seems like they're only doing this whenever he talks. So I don't know. Fine then, if you don't tell me the truth, then I'll just have to beat it out of you. There, now that's capitalized. Mr. Shu thrashed as he strikes his whip against Bora. Oh, and this is supposed to be rated K+. Hitting a child with a whip doesn't sound very kid-friendly now, does it? The rating is wrong, you fucking idiot. Causing her to cry out in pain. Somewhere in the house, Vegeta and Trunks are working on their training sessions when they felt a disturbance. Feels like Bora is in trouble again, Dad. Trunks assumed. Computer, return to normal gravity and open the door. Vegeta demanded and did as he ordered. Did he order himself to do something? Or should it say the computer did as he ordered? Da, 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 da. While Vegeta and Trunks quickly left the gravity room, back to Bora's room, Mr. Shu is still battering Bora with his whip, and she's wailing even louder. This will teach you to lie to Mr. Shu. He hollered with every cracking sound of his whip. Oh, how charming. He must be great with children. Then all of a sudden, he can't move his arm. What the? Mr. Shu turns around and sees a gnarling and snarling Vegeta and Trunks. They don't seem to like what he's doing to Bora. No shit. I mean, hello. He's practically beating her, and Bora is Vegeta's daughter, and she is also Trunks' sister. So, of course, they're not going to be happy. I can tell you now, if someone was beating the crap out of my kid, I'd probably beat the shit out of them myself. Then Mr. Shu noticed that Vegeta has gotten hold of his whip. Hello. Mr. Shu greeted them with a quivering smile and a tremble in his voice. You two must be the father and brother of this fine child. He tried to weasel out of this. Unfortunately for him, Vegeta is not buying it. So you're the new tutor that my wife hired. Vegeta presumed as he grabbed Mr. Shu by his shirt. Get rid of the or his. Do not have both words in there, because when you have them both in there, it sounds clunky. Bora chooses this time to get up and run up to her father and brother. Yes, sir. Mr. Shu confesses, my name is Mr. Shu. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Vegeta. He tried to get on his good side. Alas, it failed when Trunks swiped the whip from his hand and broke it into like a twig. Mr. Shu wheezed in fear when he saw what just happened. Tell me, Mr. Shu, why were you mercilessly beating my daughter? Vegeta asked with a vicious growl. It's not what it looks like, sir, Mr. Shu covered up with a big gulp. I was just trying to help her achieve her educated status with some disciplinary enforcement. He's lying, Daddy, Bora cried out. Vegeta looked down at his princess hugging his leg, covered with wet red welts and tears in her eyes. He called me a liar and a cheater. Then Vegeta went back to Mr. Shu with menacing scowl on his face. Is that true, Mr. Shu? He questioned with a cruel hiss. Now, Mr. Vegeta. Sir, when children are intelligent as your daughter gets pressured with the demands of their performance, they sometimes make up stories. Mr. Shu exaggerated cowardly. Mr. Shu, if there's anything that my little princess does not do is lie. Okay, now they're doing it again with the whole capitalizing the first letter of each word. Seriously. Vegeta shouted at Mr. Shu, so the only one who is making up stories is you. And with that, Vegeta and Trunks each grabbed Mr. Shu by the arm and dragged him out of Bora's room, with Bora following them behind. Wait, where are you taking me? Mr. Shu shrieks in fear as Vegeta and Trunks drag him down the hallway. We're going to give a lesson, Vegeta started, on aerodynamics. Trunks finished with the famous Vegeta smirk on both of their faces. Mr. Shu does not like the sound of that. At that moment, Bulma is about to check on Bora and Mr. Shu when she sees. Do not have an apostrophe S for she's. That doesn't make any sense. When she sees Vegeta and Trunks dragging Mr. Shu on the floor. Oh no, not again, she told herself. She then steps aside to let them through. Mrs. Breeze, Vegeta, help me. Please talk some sense into your husband and son. Mr. Shu pleaded, but to no avail. I'm sorry, Mr. Shu. Bulma replied when she saw the red marks on Bora, but it looks like you've broken one of the house rules. Never mess with one of the children. Then she followed them to where they are taking Mr. Shu. Mr. Shu just gave out a pitiful cry. Not too far, okay, it should be 2 O's in the word two, not one. Not too far from Capsule Corpse. Krillin and his family are standing on top of one of the big buildings. So what's keeping them? 18 asked, starting to get bored. Relax, honey. They'll be here. Krillin assured her. What do you think is going to happen to that man? Marin asked. Oh, probably the usual, Krillin answered. Okay, how did they know that he was going to be a tutor for their child? It's not like he said that he was going to be one. People will correct me up when they do not explain things very well in their stories, and then you have to kind of figure stuff out for yourself. Ha 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 ha. Let's continue. Well, whatever. Okay, whatever should be one word, not two. They are going to do. I hope they'll do it quick, 18 added. Hang on. Here they come, Krillin announced as they see the Briefs Vegeta family with Mr. Shu being dragged by the arms, coming out of Capsule Corporations and onto the balcony. Please, please, please let me go. I promise I won't hurt your daughter again, Mr. Shu begged. Vegeta and Trunks just ignored his pitiful pleas and flew up to the roof while carrying the panicky Mr. Shu. Bulma, carrying Bora, stayed behind. Don't worry, sweetheart, Bulma comforted her daughter. Daddy and Trunks will take care of that mean man. Bora just gave a small smile. Vegeta and Trunks landed on the rooftop with Mr. Shu looking scared. Why are we here? Mr. Shu asked, afraid what the answer is going to be. All right, my son, you pick the destination this time, Vegeta told Trunks. Trunks looked around and chose the ideal direction. Over there looks fine, said Trunks as he points to the direction he chose. Perfect. Vegeta approved with his evil grin. All right, it's the city dump, Krillin exclaimed excitedly. The perfect place to send out the trash. 18 agreed with her own trademark smirk. Now I feel sorry for that poor man, Marin sympathized. Ah, don't worry, Marin, honey. I don't think he'll get hurt that much. Krillin reassured her. Back to the Capsule Corporation rooftop, Vegeta and Trunks each grab Mr. Shu's legs and start to swing him back and forth in the direction Trunks picked. You two aren't really going to do this, Mr. Shu screeches. Relax, Vegeta told him. We've done this about 6 times, Trunks added. 6 times? Mr. Shu repeated. Then he realized something. It wasn't Bora that drove all those other tutors away. It was these two, or at least tossed them away. Wait, we can discuss this like civilized men! Mr. Shu screamed in pure terror with a terrified look on his face as Vegeta and Trunks sent him flying. The 2 sane princes dusted off their hands and joined up with Bulma and Bora. Well, looks like that's it then, Krillin proclaimed. Looks like Bulma won't be hiring any more tutors, 18 predicted. Do you think that man will be all right? Marin asked with concern. Don't worry, honey. I'm sure he'll be happier in his own environment. 18 consoled as Marin held onto both of her parents and took off. Minutes later, Mr. Shu landed where Krillin said he would, in the city dump. He surfaces from the rubbish and spits out some debris that he got into his mouth. That's it. I'm giving up this teaching business and join a demolition derby, he declared. It's much safer. And with that, he laid face down on the garbage in peace. Returning to Capsule Corporation, the Briefs Vegeta family are now together on the balcony. Well, Bulma, that's 7 tutors and that Bora did not like, Vegeta proclaimed. You know the deal, he reminded her. Very well then, Bulma sighed in defeat. Trunks, for now on, you're Bora's new tutor, she told her son. Yes, said Trunks in triumph as Bulma gave him Bora. Come on, sis, let's first put some ointment on you, then I can teach you how to make a volcano out of chocolate cake. Trunks offered. I thought he was supposed to be 18 in this, not 12. Bora accepted with a hug and they went back into the house. I don't like the looks of this, said Bulma. Oh, will you relax, Bulma, Vegeta told her. I tutor our son and look how fine he turned out. That's what I'm afraid of, Bulma rebutted. You worry too much, woman. Vegeta returned and the 2 of them went back into the house together. And thus ending the story. Fade to black. Well, it wasn't exactly the worst piece of fan fiction I've ever read, but it was quite stupid. It might have been a little more enjoyable if it wasn't for the weird layout and if the grammar and stuff wasn't bad. But, I don't know, I mean, I don't think the Briefs family would be getting away with tossing people off buildings just because the tutors didn't suit their daughter. I mean, I guess this guy kind of deserved it because he was beating her and stuff, but I don't know. It wasn't that great of a story. I mean, it was kind of cute, but at the same time it was not. You know, it had annoying things about it that kind of made me want to scream. Let's put it that way. But still, it's better than the / Dragon Ball Z fanfics I've had to read in the past. Well, I'm the FanFic Critic. I read it, you listen, and I'm gonna go watch some Dragon Ball Z.